I was already on my second ride that morning, and the boy's air had that late autumn bite to it. My old Honda idled outside a beauty salon on Grove Street, the heater humming low. The second the back door swung open, the car filled with the sharp sweetness of designer perfume, followed by the click-tap stutter of acrylic nails against a phone screen. Yeah, Mom, I'm at the salon now. Hair color, lash lift, Monty touch-up, basically the whole day. Exhausting, but beauty's pain. The girl in the back seat didn't even glance at me. She just kept chatting away, her voice nasal and loud, tossing her freshly styled hair like she was in some reality show confessional. As I eased onto the main road, she let out a dramatic sigh. Honestly, I should have just walked. They sent this clunker that rattles like gravel under the tires. She wasn't wrong about the bumps. Boys' roads in November were anything but smooth. Her job wasn't about the pavement, about me. It was about me, about my car, my life. Then, sharp as a whip, she snapped. Why is it so cold in here? Pulling her white faux fur coat tighter. The heat's on, I said without turning. Well, turn it up then. I'm freezing. We're already pulling in, I replied, rolling up to the curb. That'll be $16.50. 50 cents. She blinked at me like I'd just spoken in code. $16.50? For this? Her eyes darted around the interior, scoffing. This is barely even a car. I could have Ubered cheaper. I pre-calculated, I shrugged. It's right there when you book. I don't read that junk. I just call and go, she huffed, rifling through her designer purse with exaggerated annoyance. I'd met a kind before, the ones who dropped 3 figures on lashes and latte foam art, but raised hell over a $16 ride. The ones who treated drivers like me as scenery. And scenery, until we weren't convenient anymore. Finally, she pulled out a crumpled $100 and a faded $50. Here, she snapped, thrusting them forward. I counted quick and held out my palm. You're short. 15. Her eyes flew wide. You're kidding. You're actually going to hold me up over 15 cents? And not cents, I said flatly. $1. Oh my God. She dug through her coin pouch like it had personally offended her, finally slapping the change into my hand with a grimace. Take it and let me out. You're free to go, I said with a tight smile, unlocking the doors. She stormed out on her stilettos, nearly slipping on wet leaves, stomping toward the salon like a goose in heels. Watching her flail away, I let out a long breath, reached for the crumpled pack of cigarettes in the glove box, and lit one with unsteady fingers. No one ever tells you this part of the job, how you're both chauffeur and emotional punching bag. It wasn't just the car they judged. It was me. And no matter how many hours I drove, or how early I woke, to some people, I'd always be just the woman behind the wheel. Replaceable, disposable, and yet I kept driving. By early afternoon, the bar crowd started seeping in. Boys might look quiet on the outside, but the moment the neon signs flicker on, the daytime drinkers stumble out, already half gone. I pulled up to a corner on Main where a man in a wrinkled suit waved me down, stumbling as if the sidewalk had moved under him. He dropped into the back seat with the heavy smell of whiskey rolling off him. A downtown Marriott, he slurred, then leaned his head back, with a sigh that rattled the car. The first few minutes were quiet, except for him humming tunelessly. But when we hit the connector, the hum turned into irritation. Why'd you go this way? He snapped suddenly, voice sharp. This is the fastest route, I explained, tapping the GPS. There's a toll. He shot back as if I'd led him into an ambush. It's $3. It saves you 12 minutes. He barked his words, wobbling with alcohol. A turn around. I'll not give the state another dime. We were already halfway across, so turning back would have been pointless. I stayed steady, hands firm on the wheel. It's a standard route. The fees added automatically. His laugh was ugly, mean. You drivers are all scammers. That's how you make money, huh? Rip off working people like me. I kept my mouth shut, but inside my jaw ached from holding back. He wasn't a working people. He was a suit, the kind who lived in polished hotels and lectured women like me about honesty. When we pulled up to the Marriott, told him the fare, $22.75. He tossed a 20 into the front seat like it was trash. That's all you're getting. Huh. Sir, I said, voice level, the fare's $22.75. Then sue me, he sneered, already halfway out the door. See how far a cab driver gets in court. I sat there, staring at the crumpled bill in my hand, the door still swinging from where he'd left. Another ride, another reminder. In their eyes, my labour wasn't worth its full price. My time, my gas, my patience, discounted, devalued, dismissed. I lit another cigarette, the smoke curling toward the ceiling. Out here, you learned quick. People loved the convenience but hated paying for it. And women behind the wheel? We were fair gamed up by late afternoon. I was running on caffeine and smoke. The rides blurred, one business guy after another, each glued to their phones, acting like I was invisible. Then the hospital request came through. St. Luke's. I pulled up to the curb, half expecting another doctor or nurse too exhausted to drive home. Instead, a woman with silver hair appeared, moving slowly, careful like each step cost her. She carried a small overnight bag. Her eyes were tired, but there was this steady dignity about her, the kind that made you sit up straighter without even realizing. She eased into the back seat, clutching the bag close. "A good evening, dear," she said softly. Her voice reminded me of the women in my childhood neighborhood, the ones who'd bring soup when your mother was sick. "A good evening," I replied. "Where to?" She gave me an address across town, then fell quiet. The ride started in silence. I glanced at the rear view. Her gaze was fixed on the window, but not on anything outside. She was somewhere else entirely. After a few minutes, she spoke, almost to herself. "He's gone, just like that. 52 years, and now it's quiet." Her words hung heavy in the air, pressing down on the hum of the road. "I'm sorry for your loss," I said, and I meant it. She nodded faintly. "And we always think we'll have more time, don't we? More mornings, more little arguments about nothing." She gave a small laugh that broke halfway. "But the house will be so big now. Too big for one person." The city noise faded for me. In that moment, all I heard was her voice cracked with grief but steady in its truth. When we reached her house, she hesitated before opening the door. Then she leaned forward slightly. "Thank you for listening. You didn't have to, but you did." I just nodded. Words would have felt cheap. She stepped out slowly, walked to her door, and disappeared inside. I sat there for a long moment, the meter still running, my hand frozen on the gear shift. That ride clung to me, heavier than the drunk's insults, sharper than the man who threw money like scraps. It reminded me that behind every pickup, there's a whole life unraveling or rebuilding, and I was just the witness passing through. By the time I parked outside my building, the sky had started to bleed into dawn. The city was quieter, the streets finally breathing again. I sat in the car longer than I should have, staring at the steering wheel, my hands still buzzing from the night. Every ride had left a different weight. Fear, frustration, sadness, all stacked inside me like bricks. People think driving is just about the road, but it's not. It's about the people who climb into your back seat, carrying their stories like hidden luggage. Some leave behind anger, some leave behind silence, and some, like that woman, leave behind something that stays with you long after they're gone. Being a woman behind the wheel adds another layer. You learn to keep your guard up, to calculate risks the way other drivers don't have to. You learn when to smile politely and when to go stone-faced. You memorize exits, scan mirrors, and keep your phone within reach. Not because you're paranoid, but because you have to. And yet, despite it all, the drunks, the creeps, the disrespect, there's also this strange power in it. This quiet resilience that comes from knowing you can carry yourself through the dark and bring someone else to where they need to be. That night, I realized something. The road doesn't just test you, it shapes you. Every insult, every danger, every moment of grief you witness. They carve you, sharpen you, make you more unshakable. And maybe that's what being a woman driver really is. Not just surviving the ride, but learning how to own it. When I finally stepped out of the car, the air felt different. Cooler, almost like the city itself was letting me exhale after holding my breath all night. My legs ached from hours of sitting, but my mind was too restless for sleep. I climbed the stairs to my apartment and paused at the door, my hand hovering over the key. Inside, everything would be quiet, ordinary, still. Yet I knew I wasn't walking in as the same woman who had left at dusk. The road changes you in ways you don't always notice at first. You think you're just driving, but in reality, you're absorbing people's worst moments, their ugliest moods, their fleeting vulnerabilities. You become a witness to things most people will never see up close. And then, somehow, you're expected to just drop them off and move on, as if their story hasn't left fingerprints all over yours. I realized something else that night. Being behind the wheel isn't about control the way most people think. It's about endurance. It's about knowing you can survive being underestimated, disrespected, or even threatened, and still not let it steal your resolve. For every man who told me I didn't belong on the road, there were miles that proved I did. For every passenger who tried to break me down, there were streets I conquered alone in the dead of night. So yes, I'm a woman driver, but more than that, I'm a woman who has learned that the road will bend before I do. And maybe, just maybe, that's what kept me going, night after night. Not the fares, not the freedom, not even the city lights, but the knowledge that no matter how rough the ride, I would always get myself home. At the end of it all, the city may never remember the woman who drove its streets at night, but I will always remember what those streets taught me. Every insult, every challenge, every quiet mile alone behind the wheel became proof that I could not be broken. The road didn't just carry passengers from one place to another. It carried me closer to who I truly was, a survivor, a fighter, and most of all, a woman who refused to let anyone else define her worth. Because in the end, I didn't just drive the city. I owned it. One ride, 1 mile, one night at a time.